When you ask me a question, you tell me I have to answer. I just asked you a question and you ignored me. Is that your client's vehicle? I also said I don't know what it looks like, so why would you ask me?
Josh, I mean, I'm not supposed to be answering questions. I'm not the witness. And when did you get that CDL?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
This is Joshua Berglund, a truck driver who was involved in an accident in Texas with car driver Darlena Nguyen. He is being deposed in an injury lawsuit case brought to the courts by Miss Darlena. On November 15th of 2021, Josh was working for a company called Andrews Distribution Company, a company that is based out of Texas. And I want to make it clear before we get into this video that this is a injury lawsuit case, not a criminal case, meaning that this case will determine who is responsible for paying funds to an injured party, if any at all. And as I watched this video from the first time, it was an emotional roller coaster for me as a truck driver myself. From moments of frustration to Josh's behavior in the deposition, to moments of pity for the driver, understanding his perspective, all the way to complete disbelief of the evidence that was presented via dash cam. Let's watch this deposition together, and I'll make my comments as a truck driver, whether the truck driver in this case specifically was in the wrong or in the right, based off of my experience as a truck driver.
We are on the record at 10:51. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. This videotaped deposition of Joshua Berglund. Will counsel please state their appearances and any agreements for the record?
So this deposition occurred just this past January in 2025 for something that happened all the way back in 2021. And that just goes to show the slow moving wheels of justice. Things take forever to get accomplished.
Rich Hyde here on behalf of the plaintiff, Darlena Nguyen.
Allison Van here on behalf of Joshua Berglund.
Sonia Kriakos here on behalf of defendant.
Okay, so they're just going through listing the lawyers and their names and who they're representing.
Do you understand that today's testimony has the same force and effect as if you were in a court of law before a judge and jury?
Yeah.
Please raise your hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Josh, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Make sure to say yes or no, as opposed to yeah, just so our court reporter's record is very clean, okay? I know that's habit. Try to do your best. I'll correct you. I'm sure Rich will correct you if it's not clear, okay?
One of the commenters on this video had mentioned it's so funny when the voice matches up perfectly with the face. And I couldn't have said it better myself.
Do you go by Josh or Joshua?
Josh.
Josh, you understand you're giving a deposition in a lawsuit?
Yes.
And are you aware of the nature of that lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, so I trust that I'm not going to have to go through all that with you on why you're here today. Fair?
Yes.
You remember the date of the wreck that we're here about?
November 15th, 21.
And where did this wreck occur?
George Bush Highway.
In Dallas?
No.
Where?
Garland.
Now,
Okay, so Garland is on the outskirts of Dallas. It's a little bit nitpicky, but yeah, it's...
what time of day
okay.
did this wreck happen? And you can approximate.
I don't remember.
Was it in the afternoon?
I don't know.
Okay, so the I don't remembers and I don't know is going to be a repetitive theme in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and keep a counter of how much this truck driver absolutely does not know.
Do you know if it was light outside or if it was dark outside?
Light.
Clear or rainy or somewhat or something else? Was there any weather conditions going on that day that you remember?
Sunny.
Sunny. Now, there was a crash report put together for this wreck, and it has the wreck occurring at about 3:17 p.m. Central Time. Sound about right?
I don't know.
And what this lawyer is doing right now is setting up to determine whether or not the conditions of the road could have had an impact on this accident. And these are pretty standard questions anytime you're filling out an accident report, so they shouldn't be too difficult to answer.
As of the date of the wreck, you were working for Andrews Distributing,
Yes.
and you were working as a truck driver?
Yes.
Prior to Andrews, did you work for a truck driver as a truck driver for anybody else?
No.
So that job at Andrews Distributing, that was your first job as a truck driver?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something important to note, that this was this truck driver's first truck driving job. And depending on how long he had been working for the company is really the only factor in his experience level as it pertains to this accident.
Did you have a CDL at the time,
Yes.
a commercial driver's license?
Yes.
And when did you get that CDL?
Come on.
I don't know the exact date.
And boom, here is where my frustration starts. Everybody who gets a CDL is so excited to get their CDL. If you're putting it on an application, you know when you got your CDL. You could at least give a month and a year.
Did you have it prior to beginning work at Andrews?
Yes.
And in order to obtain that CDL, what did you have to do that a normal driver with a regular everyday driver's license did not have to do?
Form.
Okay, let's put it this way.
I'm not sure what the lawyer said in that. Obviously, it's something that wasn't supposed to be questioned, or the phrasing or something of it was off. And just to be clear, this lawyer here is questioning the truck driver because he's the lawyer for the plaintiff, meaning Miss Daniela.
You also have a standard driver's license, right? Or have had one prior to obtaining your CDL?
Yes.
And when you got your everyday driver's license, you had to take a test with the DMV, right?
Yes.
Now, compare that process with the process of obtaining a commercial driver's license. How did they differ?
I don't know how that's relevant to the situation here.
Well, let the attorneys decide what's relevant and try to just answer my questions. How did it differ?
I don't know.
You don't know? Can't recall any differences in the process of obtaining a CDL?
I don't know.
Do you have?
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy because you definitely know the differences. Obviously, number one, you're in a semi-truck. Number two, there's different backing maneuvers that you have to do. There's so much that's different between getting a CDL versus getting a standard driver's license, and he should be able to know that. It seems like he's just trying to be a smart aleck throughout the duration of this deposition here.
A CDL manual.
I don't know.
Did you keep anything in the cab of that semi that you were driving the day of the wreck? Did you have a manual with all of the trucking specific rules and regulations?
I don't know.
Yes, you should automatically always have the little green book of the FMCSA safety guidelines in your truck. Now, to be fair, whether or not he had that in his truck, that could be up for question, and he might not know if it was in there. But realistically, that's something that's required to have in your truck at all times. So the answer should be yes, it was.
As of the day of the wreck, how long had you been working for Andrews Distributing?
I don't know. Exactly.
You don't know how long you've been working for a company. I mean, come on now.
Over a year?
I don't know.
You had a CDL for the state of Texas, correct? Or it was issued by the state of Texas?
Yes.
Any other states in which you've had a driver's license or a CDL?
No.
Let's just talk about being a truck driver. I know you said you don't know how long you've been a truck driver as of the day of the wreck, but you do understand that there is a difference between driving a semi-truck and, let's say, a sedan or an everyday civilian vehicle. You'd agree with me on that general principle, right?
I don't know how that's relevant.
Well, would you agree or disagree?
I don't know.
After driving presumably for years, why don't I not presume, how long had you been driving as just an everyday driver at the time that you obtained your CDL?
I don't know.
You went to, did you go to truck driving school?
I don't know how that's relevant.
Did you go to truck driving school?
No.
You did not. Who taught you how to drive a semi-truck?
That's not relevant.
It is, actually. So let's just go ahead and answer them, all right? So who taught you how to drive a semi-truck?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I learned myself.
You learned yourself. How did you learn yourself?
That's not relevant.
The rule is just answer the question. Your attorney can object. All right? Relevance, all that. You can make those arguments or make it through your attorney, but just answer my questions, please. So, how did you learn or teach yourself how to drive a semi-truck?
Practice.
Practice. What does that entail? Just hopping into a big old rig and driving around a parking lot?
I already answered that. Practice.
Well, what does practice entail?
Practice.
So this truck driver is employing a method called CYA, cover your ass. Once you get to the point of the deposition, it's already way too late for that. And if anything, not answering the questions just kind of starts to look bad on you as a truck driver. It shows that you don't have enough experience to be doing what you're doing.
Did you read any sort of literature, any sort of notebooks about driving a semi-truck when you were teaching yourself how to drive?
I taught myself and I practiced.
All right, so for the sake of you guys, I'm going to go ahead and speed up this portion right here. Keep this counter going. I still find it pretty comical to see how little this truck driver is claiming to know about being a truck driver. We'll get to the juicy part here sooner. Let's go.
Part of
And
practicing and teaching yourself. Did you read any sort of books or manuals on driving a truck?
I taught myself. I practiced. I acquired a CDL.
You having a hard time with my questions?
No, I understand them very clearly, and I'm answering them clearly.
So my question is, as part of practice and teaching yourself, did you pick up anything, any manuals, any books, anything with, words in it about driving a truck?
I don't know.
Was it an easy process obtaining your CDL?
I don't know how to answer that.
It's an opinion. Can't really get it wrong.
Well, then it's not relevant.
I think it is. I think the jury will.
Let's talk facts, not opinions.
I'm going to ask the questions that I'm going to ask, sir. So I'm asking you, do you think that it was a difficult process, an easy process?
I don't know how to answer that.
Look, when I get up into the office, look, I push a button, my garage door goes up, I back out, I drive to work. Matter of seconds. For you, it's different, right? At least when you're driving a semi-truck. Wouldn't you agree?
Things are all about perception. That's again a perception, not a fact.
Well, you, unlike me, you probably have to spend 15 to 20 minutes checking everything on the tractor. That is, I guess, the truck portion of the truck and the trailer attached. If there is a trailer attached, right? You have to do an inspection before you begin driving.
Okay, so he's talking about doing a pre-trip inspection. Obviously, he knows his stuff. And yes, a truck driver should perform a good pre-trip inspection before taking off. But you could tell that this lawyer is getting really frustrated with the lack of answers that he's getting.
I don't know how to answer that.
When you drive a truck, before you begin, and when I say truck, I mean a tractor trailer, a semi-truck, you perform a pre-trip inspection, do you not?
I don't know how to answer that.
I'm not going to tell you how to answer it, but yes or no would do. Do you perform a pre-trip inspection before you drive a semi-truck? You looking to her for answers? Is she a truck driver? Or are you? Do you perform a pre-trip inspection?
I already answered. I don't know how to answer that.
You don't know how to answer that. Looks like you just did.
Let's talk
Do
facts.
you know
not
how?
opinions.
I am.
No, you're assuming a lot.
A pre-trip inspection, whether or not you perform one before you drive, it's a fact, brother. It's a fact. So you don't know.
Then not your
And I'm going to go and move ahead. Do you know how to adjust the axles to know where to position your axles on your tractor?
That's not relevant.
Do you know how to check the weight to make sure the weight is properly balanced?
That's not relevant.
Are there different rules and regulations that apply to commercial motor vehicles like tractor trailers? Are there different rules for them than there are for other everyday vehicles?
I don't know.
You don't know? Do you know the FMCSR? You ever heard that acronym? Do you know the FMCSR? Have you ever heard that acronym?
Form.
Okay, so I did find out when they say form, it just means that the way the question is phrased is not appropriate way to ask the question. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a truck driver, and I'm trying to figure this out as I go as well.
Objection form.
Still answer when it's an objection, sir.
I don't know.
You don't know the FMCSR? You don't know what that is?
Form.
I should say, you don't know what the FMCSR are?
Form.
So the FMCSR is Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. rules that are for truck drivers. Pretty simple.
Yes, no?
Well,
I don't know.
When you're driving, you track your trailer. Let's go to the date of the wreck. As you're driving on George Bush, are you looking ahead?
Yes.
Are you checking for?
Oh, yay. Good job, buddy. You answered a question with a yes or a no. Oh, man, I'm so proud of you. You're looking ahead when you're driving a truck.
Vehicles?
Yes.
How far ahead are you looking?
I don't know how to answer that question.
The road ahead. How far in, whether it's yards, you can even use some sort of other metric like car lengths. How far ahead are you looking as you're driving the truck?
I don't know.
Are you looking at just the lane that your vehicle is traveling in, or are you looking at surrounding lanes as well?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know the answer to that.
When's the last time you drove a truck?
That's not relevant.
It is. When's the last time you drove a tractor trailer?
I don't know.
So you don't look or don't know whether you look for other vehicles in surrounding lanes when you're driving a tractor trailer?
I don't know.
You don't know? Do you know how to drive a tractor trailer?
Yes.
So
Oh, we got another one. We got an affirmative. He does know how, except for he doesn't know anything to do with this, anything to do with the truck.
do you look in the lane to the left when you're in a center lane, provided there is a left lane?
I don't know how to answer that question.
And I'm not really sure I know how to ask it any more simply of a way.
That sounds like your problem, not mine.
Rest assured, Josh, this case is very much your problem.
Ooh.
I'm going to ask that you just answer the simple questions.
I am.
Wow. So the lawyer basically told him, dude, if you're not answering right, this is going to be a problem for you. Oh, my gosh. So finally, it seems after all this frustration is building up with this lawyer, he starts to return some of the smart aleck comments back to the truck driver.
What's a blind spot?
The blind spot's an area you cannot see.
Okay, we got
context
another answer.
Of driving a tractor trailer, and specifically the one that you were driving that day, where were your blind spots?
I don't know how to answer that question.
If you're looking out overhead window of your cab, what areas are blind? What can't you see?
I don't know how to answer that question.
If someone is in the lane to your right, where are they? Where's the blind spot? What part of your tractor, if they were next to it, would you not be able to see from the seat in your tractor that you're sitting in?
I don't know how to answer that question.
You know, we served interrogatories in this case. Are you familiar with the term interrogatories?
No.
They're questions that we serve in this lawsuit to the other side, and at least if the rules are being followed, you're to answer them. And we did receive answers. I'm wondering if you just told your attorney, I don't know all the answers. Is that what
Okay, so it seems based off of this deposition here, an interrogatory question is presented to the opposing lawyer to ask the client of the opposing lawyer, in this case, Mr. Josh. And these questions are asked by the lawyer and the responses are presented back to the opposing counsel.
I'm wondering if you just told your attorney, I don't know all the answers. Because that's what I seem to be getting today.
If you have any,
Objection, don't respond. That's attorney-client privilege.
Okay, so basically he was asking what was happening behind closed doors between him and Mr. Josh and Mr. Josh's attorney.
How'd you get those interrogatories answered if you don't know? Look at me, sir. She's not supposed to give you any answers or hints. That's coaching. It's prohibited. So how'd you answer those interrogatories?
if you have the answers, why are you asking me again?
I don't have the answers to all questions. That's what today's for. And I want to make sure that you're the one who actually answered them.
Do you have the answer to the question you just asked?
No, sir. So I'm asking it to you right now. You need me to repeat the question?
Sure.
You're sitting in your cab, driver's seat, and there's a vehicle in the lane to the right of the vehicle, or of the lane that you're traveling in. At what point would the vehicle in the right lane enter a blind spot, like we've been talking about today? Where would the vehicle in the lane to the right be positioned in relation to your tractor? Where would that be if it was inside the blind spot?
I don't know how to answer that question.
You're driving a truck that has what's been referred to as a blind spot mirror. Are you familiar with that term, blind spot mirror?
Yes, sir.
What's a blind spot mirror?
That's exactly what it's called.
Describe it for the people that may be new to trucking cases. What is a blind spot mirror?
Okay, so from my perspective as a truck driver, a blind spot mirror is on the hood of the truck and it shows where your blind spot is. And where is the blind spot? It's on the passenger side of your truck, kind of up front by the hood area, by the steer tire. And as a truck driver, these questions should be able to be answered. But as we'll see in the dash cam video, the car wasn't in any of those locations. So they're setting it up right now.
I just answered that.
Where is it located on the truck?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Is it affixed to your headrest?
No.
Is it next to the foot pedal?
No.
So, I get it. Where on your truck is the blind spot mirror?
I don't know how to answer that question.
If I'm looking out the driver's side window, is it right there? If I'm reaching outside the driver's side window, is it right to outside and up?
I still don't know how to answer that question.
Were the blind spot mirrors properly adjusted on your truck the day of the wreck?
I don't know.
Well, you knew when you answered these interrogatories, said that they had not been adjusted properly.
Then why'd you ask me if you know the answer?
Because I wanted to see if you're going to tell the truth when put under oath. Plus, interrogatories are not testimony. This is testimony. I need it to ask it in a testimonial setting. So I'm asking again. Were they properly adjusted?
You didn't specify which blind spot mirror.
Okay. Nor did you in the interrogatory answers. Which blind spot mirrors, if any, were not properly adjusted?
You asked a general question. I gave you a general answer.
And I'm asking you now, more specifically, which blind spot mirrors were not, as you allege, properly adjusted?
Is this a different question than the interrogatory?
It really doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. Which blind spot mirror?
This
if any,
lawyer
was
is
not
getting
properly adjusted?
so
Please specify,
frustrated.
Josh.
I don't know.
You don't know. So do you know if either was properly adjusted?
I don't remember.
Do you believe there were any transmission issues with the tractor? Day of the wreck?
I don't know how that's relevant.
Do we have to go over that again? The whole relevant thing? Just answer, brother.
I'm not your brother.
Okay, just answer, sir.
The attitude between
Any
the
repeat
both of
question?
them.
Sure.
Do you believe there were any transmission issues with the tractor?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Because, again, interrogatory 10, you seemed sure when you're answering that. You said that there were transmission issues with the tractor. And how does the transmission of the truck, how does that relate to adjustment of the side mirror on the vehicle?
I don't know.
Is there any relation?
I don't know.
Would improper adjustment to the side mirror cause transmission issues?
I don't know how to answer that.
Do you know about how these trucks operate?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I don't know, because you did answer in your answer to interrogatory 10 that defendant believes, defendant being you, believes that there was transmission issues with the tractor and due to improper adjustment of the side mirror. So I guess it might be two separate issues, but I want to know if they're related issues. I just don't understand how an improper adjustment of the side mirror would impact transmission whatsoever.
What was the wording? You said believes? So
Yes.
That's a matter of perception, not fact.
I know, but we're asking you.
And I'll here to answer facts, but we can't answer perceptions.
Okay. You said that plaintiff, meaning the vehicle occupied by my client, was in a blind spot where defendant being you, could not see that vehicle before making the lane change. So which blind spot was she in?
The vehicle was in my blind spot.
Where's your blind spot?
The vehicle was in, well, I really don't know how to answer that definitely.
You can just try your best.
I don't want to try and guess. I want to give you facts.
I'm not asking you to guess, but just try to articulate where the blind spot is. If you're driving a vehicle, where that blind spot is. Just try your best. You're not going to mess that up. I mean, you just try.
I don't know how to answer that.
Whose job is it to make sure that the side mirrors are properly adjusted on the truck?
Ooh. It is the truck driver's responsibility to make sure that the side mirrors are properly adjusted on the truck before leaving. That's all a part of your pre-trip inspection. So this is one of those questions where it's setting this driver up to really ding himself on this one. If there's anyone that you don't want to know, it's this one right here.
I don't know how to answer that.
You don't know whose job it is?
Of course.
Whose responsibility it is?
I don't know how to answer that.
Would it be your job before you get into that vehicle to make sure that the side mirrors are properly adjusted?
I don't know how to answer that. I've said that twice now.
Well, if you're getting into the truck, let's say, do you ever keep the truck at your home?
No.
You don't? Where do you pick it up as of this time of this wreck? Where do you pick it up from?
I don't know how that's relevant. That's not relevant to this case.
Again,
Accident.
there's that relevance thing, man. It's this question and answer. Where did you pick the truck up from? How about we go to the date of the wreck? Where were you going?
Just driving back to the yard.
Driving back to the yard. And where's the yard?
Andrew's building in Allen.
I'm sorry?
Andrew's building,
Okay, what city?
Allen.
Allen, Texas.
And where were you coming from?
I don't remember.
That's the first fair I don't know or I don't remember statement that I've heard from him. We do so many different loads as truck drivers, and especially being a part of a distribution company, going to multiple different stores throughout your shift, And also, it being almost 3 years from the date of the incident to the date of this deposition, it is very fair to assume that he would not know where he was coming from.
There's a trailer attached to the truck, right?
Yes.
Was that also Andrew's trailer?
Yes.
And the interrogatory answer said that you were at the end of your shift. Is that accurate? As of the time of the wreck, you were at the end of your shift?
I don't know how to answer that.
Were you close to the Andrew's yard when the wreck happened?
Again, that's a perception question. I don't know how to
Not
answer that.
I mean, I could sit there and measure the distance. I mean, how long approximately would it have taken you to get to the Andrew's yard had this wreck not happened? How much longer did you have to go?
I don't know.
Remind me, you said it was Andrew's yard was in Allen,
Yes.
and you were in Garland as of the time of this wreck, right?
Yes.
Fairly close, right? Same metroplex.
Is that a statement or a question?
I mean, do you agree or disagree?
Well, I don't know.
The trailer attached to the tractor, was there anything in it?
I don't remember.
What do you usually transport, or what did you usually transport for Andrews?
I don't know how that's relevant. Do you know what Andrews is?
Not the ones in the deposition.
It seemed like you asked a lot of questions you know the answer to already.
What did you usually transport in the back of the trailer?
Beer.
It's fair for him not to know whether he was loaded or unloaded at the time, given that it was such a distance ago, such a big time frame ago, whether he was loaded or empty. That being said, my truck caught fire years ago. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. And I still remember that I was loaded during that time.
Last drop off. A load.
I don't remember.
You have a bill of lading. Sorry.
I don't remember.
Who was your supervisor at Andrews?
Andy Killingsworth.
How do I spell that?
Andy Killingssworth.
Any other supervisors?
I don't know.
Did you all have a safety manager there at Andrews Distributing?
I don't remember.
Did you have any meetings with anyone at Andrews Distributing regarding safe operations of a commercial vehicle?
Okay, there the
So,
lawyer
I
said
don't know how to
form
answer that.
again.
So no, you didn't have any meetings concerning concerning training or how to safely operate a commercial motor vehicle like the one you were driving that day.
I said I don't know how to answer that question.
You ever have any sort of training provided by Andrews Distributing concerning how to operate a truck?
I don't know how to answer that question.
These are simple questions. You do know how to answer the question. It's yes or no. And most likely being a local company as well, they typically have pretty regular safety meetings. And especially being this truck driver's first job and first time being behind the wheel of a truck, I'm sure they had plenty of training to get him started off in the industry.
Did they train you in any way, shape, or form to drive a commercial motor vehicle? They being Andrews.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Did they provide you any materials, like any sort of printouts, anything like that, concerning how to safely drive a truck?
I don't remember.
Did they provide you with a pre-trip inspection checklist?
I don't remember.
And when you drove that truck that morning, you did perform a pre-trip inspection?
I don't remember.
So we did talk earlier, and you said you were at the end of your shift, right? At the time of the wreck?
And I said I don't know how to answer that question.
I'll give him that. He has great memory for the time in this deposition, but his time as the driver of the vehicle that was involved in an accident, his memory is garbage.
Any suggestion?
Well, you're trying to imply, but I said I don't know how to answer that question.
You know what the end of your shift means?
Yes.
3:17 p.m. You know what that means?
That's a time.
Okay. The end of your shift. Shift ends when?
When I clock out.
And you clock out after you arrive at your intended destination, correct?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Answered it in an interrogatory. Someone did anyway.
There's so many variables. I don't know how to answer that question.
Not really. End of shift is end of shift. So you get to the yard, which was your intended destination, correct?
There's no definite time to clock out, so I don't know how to answer that question.
That's fair. That's a fair response from the driver. And here's where I'm starting to get a little bit of sympathy for the driver and a little bit of understanding. As a truck driver, hours are never set. Your start time might be set, but your end time is very, very rarely set. So you could start off at 8 o'clock in the morning and be done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or you could start off at 8 o'clock in the morning and be done at 8 o'clock at night, especially on a local job. So your time varies depending on how much work is available or work is needed to be done. So that's a fair response from the truck driver.
But you Do you have a definite amount of time that you're allowed to drive that truck, right?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know how to answer that question, rather.
Do you know if there is a definite amount of time that you're allowed to drive a truck during a given day?
I don't know how to answer that question.
During a given day, how many hours are you allowed to drive a truck?
I don't know how to answer that question.
During a given day, let's say you're driving, is there a certain amount of hours that you're allowed to drive before taking a break?
I don't know how to answer that question.
How about I ask it a different way? Is there a limit on the number of hours you can consecutively drive before you're required to stop and take a break?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he's talking about the hours of service here, and you're only allowed to drive for 11 hours on a shift, and you have to take a 30-minute break in the first 8 hours.
And you said you don't remember where you slept the night before this wreck? The night before this wreck, do you remember where you stayed?
I don't understand the question.
Well, let me see. Do you remember sleeping the night before this wreck?
I don't understand the question.
The day of the wreck, did you wake up at the house that you usually stay at? Your home? Or somewhere else?
I don't know how to answer that question.
This is absolutely crazy how little he knows. I don't know how to answer that question. Did you stay at your house, or did you sleep in the truck or in a hotel? Or you got to know something here, buddy.
The trip that you were on at the time of the wreck, you were coming back from making a delivery, right?
I don't remember.
For Andrews Distributing, did you routinely cross state lines to make deliveries?
No.
Everything was within the state?
Yes.
Okay. And if it's based in Allen, truck yard, that is, where would they have you delivering to? Was it just within the Metroplex, or were there times where you would deliver more than 5 driving hours away?
I don't remember.
So you never drove an Andrews Distributing truck outside of state lines?
No.
How do you log your hours? I'm sorry, let me take that back. As of the time of this wreck, how did you log your hours?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Was there an electronic logging device inside of your truck?
I don't know.
You don't know if there was. Do you know what an electronic logging device is?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Yes or no? Do you know what an electronic logging device is?
Yes.
Okay. Was there one of those inside of the semi?
I don't know.
You don't know? Did you manually or electronically log your driving hours?
I don't know how to answer that.
Did you use a little paper logbook, a little paper one where you manually wrote things in, or did you use some sort of electronic application to log your service hours?
I don't know how to answer that.
Or maybe neither. Did you not log your service hours one way or another?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
As a truck driver with a CDL, you are aware that you are required to log all of your hours of service, correct?
Form.
Is that a question?
Yes, it's a question.
I don't know how to answer that.
You're aware that you are supposed to log the hours that you are actually driving,
Form.
right?
I don't know how to answer that.
Try yes or no.
Form.
I don't know how to answer that.
You are aware that you are to log the hours in which, well, let me start with this. Have you ever heard the term sleeper berth?
You repeat the question?
Have you ever heard the term sleeper berth in the context of driving a truck?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't know.
You still driving trucks? As of today, are you still a truck driver?
I don't know how to answer that question.
You don't know how to answer if you are still a truck driver? What's your job?
That's not relevant.
Yes, it is. Are you still driving trucks today?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Let's take a break.
You got it.
On the record at 11:31.
So up until this point, this truck driver hasn't answered hardly any questions, at least not anything that's going to give the lawyers any information. He's either answered with, I don't know how to answer that question, or I don't think that's relevant, on top of passing a little bit of attitude back and forth between him and the lawyer. Now, at this point in the deposition, they decide to take a break in which the truck driver, Mr. Josh, and his lawyer step out and have a conversation. When they come back, it seems like Mr. Josh is more apt to answer some questions. So we're starting to get into the juicy bits of this, and let's see how it plays out.
Back on the record at 11:42.
All right, so we just got back from a break. Did you have a chance to meet with your attorney over the break?
Yes.
And did she advise you to,
Okay, so side
for
note,
lack of a better word, change the way you can answer
I think this guy could do a great job at playing the next Loki. Is it just me, or is that what he looks like?
these questions so far?
Attorney-client privilege, you do not need to answer that.
Do you still work for Andrews Distributing?
No.
When did that end?
I don't remember the exact date.
Was it this year?
No.
Was it last year?
I don't remember.
How many jobs have you had since working at Andrews Distributing?
No. I think. Can I see that form that the questions are? The ones that you're reading?
No. Those have notes. Of course not.
Well, I'm saying, what was it called? Interrogatory or something?
Interrogatories?
Yeah.
We didn't ask about that.
Oh,
I wasn't going to help you. But
can you say the question, please?
how many jobs have you had since your time at Andrews Distributing has ended?
3.
3. Are you still a truck driver as of today's date?
No.
No. Do you still have the CDL?
Yes.
Had you been involved in any auto or truck collisions prior to this collision in January of 2021?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the first that you can recall.
Okay, so this is a telltale sign as well. He's been in other accidents, yet Andrews decided to keep him on board. Which, as a truck driver, if that were to happen, that's normally a good thing. That the company will have your back and understand that things sometimes just happen out on the road. And unless it's an egregious accident, something extreme that causes injuries or anything like that, good companies will keep drivers on board. But just remember that companies are only as good as their insurance, because really, at the end of the day, the insurance is who really pulls the strings on who they hire, who they keep, who they fire. So if the insurance decides that the truck driver is of a liability, they won't insure that driver based off of any sort of accident and how bad the accidents are.
Were you driving a tractor trailer?
It's on the interrogatory.
Because I saw just one listed there. Only one other auto-related wreck prior to this wreck that we're here about in this lawsuit. Only one?
And that was the 2019?
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And then since the wreck that we're here about today, since the January 15, 2021 wreck, you've only been involved in one other auto-related wreck?
Yes. Also on the interrogatory.
Now, why did your employment at Andrews end?
Termination.
Termination. What were the grounds?
To be honest, I don't know exactly.
Was this wreck something? This wreck that we're here about today, was that part of the reason you were fired?
Yes.
Was it the reason you were fired?
I don't know exactly.
So, but someone told you that this wreck had something to do with why they terminated you.
Yes.
Did you receive a letter?
I don't remember.
You don't remember if you received a letter saying why you were terminated?
I don't remember.
Okay, who told you the reason you were terminated from Andrews?
The person that told me I was terminated was Andy Killingsworth.
Andy Killingsworth, who you said was your supervisor, correct?
Yes.
I asked you about this earlier. I'm going to ask you now again, now that you had a time to put things into perspective. The term safety manager, have you heard that term before?
I don't remember.
Was there anybody at Andrews who was responsible for conducting safety meetings with personnel such as yourself?
I really don't remember.
Did anybody at Andrews train you to operate a tractor trailer safely?
Form.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question.
Did they?
Okay, so if you're in this position, number one, you're already fired from the company. And number two, they are questioning you whether or not you had safety training, and you didn't have safety training. This is going to look better on you and look poorly on the company for not training you and not giving you enough safety information. So if these things didn't occur, make sure you say, no, I didn't. Hopefully none of you guys are ever
Provide you with any
involved in
training
this
materials?
situation.
I don't remember.
So a
Who-
better way to say that, if you don't remember, you would say, no, not that I remember, or no, not that I recall, no, not that I remember. Because again, if you're the one that's under scrutiny for these types of accidents and you're trying to make it look good on you, if you don't remember having any of those documents, I would say, no, not that I recall.
Submit to periodic tests administered by Andrews or someone that they hired to make sure that you knew the rules on how to safely operate a tractor trailer?
Form.
I don't know how to answer that question.
When you were driving a semi-truck, tractor trailer like the one you were driving in the January 2021 collision, when you're driving one of those, I need you to walk me through the safe way for you to change lanes, okay? Tell me the safe way to do it. And all the steps that go into that.
Nothing happened in January of 21. I don't believe.
I'm sorry, you're right, November of 2021. Let me ask it again. So when you're driving a semi-truck, like the tractor trailer you were driving in November of 2021, when you're driving one of those, I need you to walk me through, step by step, the safe way to change lanes.
on your turn signal. Check your mirrors. Change lanes.
Check what mirrors?
All of them. All
Walk
of
me
them.
through what all your
Okay,
mirrors are.
good answer.
Each
Good
one that you
answer.
check before you change lanes, right? Which ones do you check?
The ones on the truck.
Okay, where are they located?
On the truck.
There's a side mirror, right?
I mean, per law, there's side mirrors on a truck, yes.
One on each side, at least one on each side, right?
Yes.
That's if you wanted to reach out, grab it, roll down your driver's side window. If it rolls down, and it's right in front of the outside door, driver's side door, right?
Yeah.
And there's one on the passenger side of the cab, right, on the outside. Just like everyday vehicles, there are side mirrors, right? And do you have a rear view mirror?
I don't remember.
When you're changing lanes, we're talking about side mirrors, and if there is a rear view mirror.
So just to be clear, no trucks have a rear view mirror like you would imagine a rear view mirror being, hanging up here by your head like in a car. However, all of the mirrors on the trucks are technically a rear view mirror, except for the blind spot mirrors that are on the hood. So when a truck driver is backing up, they don't have one to look directly behind, mainly because there's typically no window. And secondly, there would be a trailer that's right behind that window and it wouldn't serve any purpose. So a semi-truck has your West Coast mirrors, which are the big long ones on either side. You have a convex mirror at the bottom, which is curved in order to show more stuff like in your blind spot, as well as some more detail depending on how you have it positioned. And then you have the hood mirrors, which are technically your blind spot mirrors. They're also convex, meaning you should be able to see from the hood of your truck into the next lane.
Do you check all of those before changing lanes?
Yes.
Any others that I have not addressed?
I don't know.
So you said to safely change lanes in a semi, you need to check your mirrors, activate your turn signal, and then physically turn your steering wheel and merge into the lane, provided it's safe, right? Do I have that accurately?
It's out of order. You put your turn signal on first to warn the other drivers on the road. Then you check your mirrors. And after everything is clear, then you change lanes.
And the turn signal, that is, where's that located in your vehicle? I want to be specific. Where was the turn signal located within the cab of the tractor trailer you were driving the day of the November 2021 collision?
On the front fenders of the truck.
Okay, he said within the cab, meaning he's looking for the switch which controls it, which is in the steering column.
Okay, so that's the turn on the front fenders?
Yes. I level with any vehicle next to it.
Those are the signal lights, right?
Turn signal lights is what you asked, correct?
I'm asking, how are those activated? Is there a bar that you flip?
It's an amber light per law, per DOT law, that when I hit the turn signal switch, the turn signal is activated, that light flashes.
Okay,
And that light is also eye level with the driver of any average vehicle next to it.
where's the turn signal switch?
Where it is on any vehicle. Well, most vehicles on the left side of the steering wheel on the steering column.
Is it a bar or a little tiny button? How do you turn it on or off?
That's a lever.
It's a lever. Okay, so a lever here. If I'm driving, I got my hands on the wheel. There's a lever to the left side to turn the turn signal on.
In your illustration, you're taking your hand off the example of a wheel, but you wouldn't do that. 2 hands on the wheel and you
Okay, 2 hands on the wheel. Then I can flick it up with my pinky or whatever.
up or down, yes.
Okay, and you turn it up.
Up to go right, down to go left.
Right. And how far does this switch, this lever, how far does it extend outside of the wheel?
I don't know exactly.
That's fair.
Why don't you demonstrate how, using the same demonstration, how you would flip that switch? Would you flip it with your pinky or what?
Form.
Yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question.
Okay. Well, you said this was wrong, where I took the hand off and flipped the switch up, right? So I took my hand off the wheel.
There's no definite way to answer that. Everybody's different. Everybody operates differently.
No, surely to operate a vehicle, you can't keep your hands glued to the wheel the entire time if you have to do something else, right?
That's safe.
That's the safest. And the safest way to do something is always.
Okay, so I want you guys to take note of this question, especially as it relates to the upcoming dash cam footage, specifically the interior camera. He's talking about the safest way to flip a turn signal switch. The safest position is to keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times. Unfortunately, you're driving a semi-truck. That's just not possible to keep both hands on the steering wheel at all times. You got to shift gears. You got to switch your turn signal on and off. You got to flip your wipers from time to time, flash your high beams, low beams. There's other switches that you just have to do in a semi-truck Turning on your engine brakes, sometimes that's not on the steering column. You can't control everything with your hands on the steering wheel at all times. It's just not possible.
If you have to do something else, right?
That's the safest.
That's the safest. And the safest way to do something is always the best way to do it, right?
Form,
Would you agree?
form.
I don't know how to answer that question.
You don't know how to answer. The safest way to do something is always the best way to do it.
Objection form.
You don't know how to answer
I
that.
know I was operating the truck safely.
You were operating the truck safely that day of the wreck.
Pay attention to that, too. He
Like
said
that
he
you
was
were operating
operating
safely?
the truck safely.
Yes.
Could you have been safer?
I don't know how to answer that question. The facts are I was operating it as safe as I could. By any legal or safety standard.
Any legal or safety standard?
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about that pre-trip inspection. We're going to try to give that one another go. Did you conduct a pre-trip inspection that day?
No.
Did Andrews Distributing?
Okay, so now he answered that he did not perform a pre-trip inspection for that day. Now, this could look like negligence on the driver's part for not doing what was necessary in order to make sure that the vehicle was safe to drive. But just because a driver didn't do a pre-trip inspection doesn't necessarily mean that the truck was out of working order, it was unsafe to drive by any measure. It just goes to show that the truck driver didn't take the responsibility to do that, which is legally required to do.
Did Andrews Distributing provide you with a checklist of items to be performed in a pre-trip inspection?
I don't remember.
Did they in any way train you, orally or in writing, or maybe gave you a video, any sort of training whatsoever on what to do in a pre-trip inspection?
I don't remember.
Again, this is a better response to this would be not that I recall if you can't remember.
What other reasons did Andrews Distributing provide for why you were terminated from their company?
I don't remember.
How did you learn about Andrews Distributing and the job at Andrews Distributing that you were ultimately hired for? How did you find out about it?
My brother.
Your brother, does he work for them?
He did.
And he was working there at the same time you were?
Including the same time, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to need to take a break to get this set up real quick.
Off the record at 11:57.
Okay, so they take a break. Now they're going to come back here. And then they're going to get into the juicy bits of the dash cam. Now, remember all the testimony that this guy has given about him not knowing about blind spot mirrors? That the most safe and the most proper way to hold a steering wheel is to keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times. And that he didn't know where the blind spots on the truck were. So watch as he creatively explains away this dash cam footage. It's really great to see.
Dash cam footage from the day of the wreck was produced in this litigation. Have you had a chance to see it?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to play it in just a moment. It's there. We got one of the 3 videos that were produced. Looks like we have a version that captures the inside of the cab in the roughly 80 seconds leading, or 80-second video that contains the wreck happening. We have one that's taken outside the cab, and then we have a side-by-side. We're going to go through those now. You've seen all 3 of those videos?
I've only seen in cab.
So for this portion, I'm going to put it on normal speed. I had it going quicker, but here we go in real time so we can see what this thing's all about here. Very clearly, it looks like he's dozing. Listen to some Eminem, which is always cool, but takes a sip of an energy drink here because he's dozing off. Oh, he sees that he wants to make a merge. He's looking around, puts his drink back down. Then he starts to merge over, and boom, the car goes crazy.
Okay.
So from what I could tell, he was dozing off. His eyes were closed. You know, he's taking a drink of an energy drink, one hand off the steering wheel, not really paying attention, takes a half a second look over to the other lane, and then starts merging over. Now, they will give us the exterior dash cam. Hang tight for that so we could see what's going on the outside. But from the inside, this guy's just all over the place.
We can watch the rest of it if you'd like. But what we just witnessed was the collision as you remember it, right?
Yes.
Looks like you said, what the fuck? Are you telling me you didn't see that vehicle prior to the impact?
That's not what he said either.
No, I did not see that car.
So he's upset, saying some cuss words here. Rightfully so. You were just in an accident. Yeah. Anytime that happens, it's just going to be a problem all day. It almost sounded like he said not paying attention. Let me back that one up, and I'm going to shut my mouth through this while he's going through this. And in the audio on the edit here, I will increase that so you can hear what he's got to say.
All right, we're going to watch it, the same one, exhibit 1, again. And I want to focus on, I'm going to stop it periodically throughout to call your attention to certain things and ask follow-up questions, all right? You ready?
Yeah.
This is the first thing. Do your eyes look closed in the frame that I have paused it at right now?
No. That's me squinting because the sun's in my eyes.
So your position is that when we see your eyes like this, it's you squinting, and you're still just looking at the road, just having your eyes squinted like I am right now.
Yeah, so the camera's up here.
Now, remember when he was talking in the deposition part where he's questioning more without the dash cam footage, he did say that this was at the end of a shift. And if he had worked a 11 to 14 hour day, you're going to be tired, especially if it was an overnight shift. But they said it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon when this was going on. So it's very feasible to be tired around that time.
You look down upon somebody, of course it looks like that. If you look at the sun, there's no shadow on my head. The visor doesn't even go low enough to block the sun even at my head level, much less my eyes, so I'm squinting. Because in the time in the afternoon, the sun is directly in my eyes because I'm heading into the sun.
That's dangerous though, don't you think?
No, it's everyday life.
That's a fair point.
Do sunglasses help?
Oh, I don't know, it's a matter of perception.
I mean, if you are actually squinting here, by squinting, you are restricting your field of vision, are you not?
No.
All right, let's continue watching.
Okay, so yeah, if you're driving an 18-wheeler, use your visors, use some sunglasses, use everything you can to prevent that light. I know it's a intrusion and it is a pain in the butt to try to see through it. The more you do it, the more your eyes kind of adjust to having to deal with that all the time. But it's still an intrusive thing and it does make you squint. However, this dude is clearly dozing.
So what I just played here, and I can skip back to it, looks like sometimes you do take your hand off the wheel, right?
Ooh, busted.
I'll try to play it so that this activity bar lowers, but sometimes you do take your hand off the wheel, as we see here. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so you took your hand off the wheel to grab a drink.
Yes.
You also took your eyes off the road ahead of you to grab a drink.
I don't know.
Right? Well, you want to watch it again?
There he goes with the I don't know.
I think that's a matter of perception.
Very clearly looking down
You want
there.
to watch it again?
Here, let's see if I
I
can
think that's
pause
a matter
it.
of perception.
Boom. Eyes are clearly looking at that cup holder where you need to put your drink. To be fair, I mean, this happens all the time. And this is where I start to have a little bit of pity for this guy. These are normal happenings as a truck driver. You're going to look down for half a second to grab a drink. You're going to look at your GPS for a couple of seconds. You're going to look at your mirrors. That takes your eyes off of the direct field in front of you. So this is nitpicky on the lawyer's part. You do take your eyes directly off of the road from time to time while you're driving the truck. That's just the way it goes. But what they're going to try to spin this as is that he wasn't paying attention, which to a degree he was dozing off, and other factors here too. So
Do you recall being tired that day at the time of the wreck?
No.
So you would disagree with anyone who's watching this video that says he looks tired.
Yes, I would disagree.
And it's the end of your shift at about 3:17 p.m. And you're drinking, what was that drink that you're drinking?
I don't remember.
An energy drink?
I don't remember. You see the same video. What was it?
All right, we'll go back. But you take your eyes off the road several times throughout this roughly first 30 seconds of Exhibit 1. Would you agree? For example, we're paused at timestamp 19 on the video, and your eyes are not on the road right now, are they?
no, it looks
Oh,
like
they're
he's looking in the mirror.
Like I
That-
told you earlier, check your mirrors before you change lanes.
yeah, that's fair. He's clearly looking at the mirror on that one.
Okay, your eyes are on the mirror at timestamp 19.
We'll play the video.
I know, but right here, you're sure that you're looking at the mirror right now at timestamp 19?
Yes. Every time I look to the right, I'm looking in a mirror for any vehicle that may be there. And based on what I'm seeing, there is no vehicle there. There was no vehicle visible.
Until he gets busted looking in a different direction, then he's looking elsewhere
Wait,
from a
where's
mirror.
Where's the vehicle that you're looking at here at timestamp 21? Because you're looking to the right there.
I don't know.
You're looking for, in timestamp 21, you're looking for a vehicle?
Can you play it in context, please? Can you back it up?
Sure. Timestamp 21, what vehicle? Are you looking for vehicles at timestamp 20 and 21?
Could you please back it up, play it, and at the point you see me look where you question, pause it, please. But play it up to that so I can have context.
Sure.
Now, to be fair on his point, where you're looking on one specific day 3 years ago in a video, I don't know where I'm looking at that point in time. You can estimate based off of the video that you're given where you're looking, but as a general rule, you're just not going to remember where specifically you're looking. It's your day, you know, you kind of just go about the mill of things.
There we are, timestamp 21. You look
Okay,
for,
and play it again now.
from where?
Right here. Play forward. All right. Pause. Okay.
He's very clearly looking at the cup holder for where to put the drink in, and it's frustrating him trying to explain
Back
it
up to
away.
21 you're wanting to say? All right. Back it up a little bit more. A little bit more, like a few seconds. Okay.
Okay, well,
play.
we're talking about something different, backed up more. I'm talking about 20 and 21.
I'm putting it in context. I'll answer your question. Absolutely. So go ahead and play it. Okay, pause it where you pause it where you want to ask the question.
20 and 21.
Okay. So at second 21, where am I looking? You're on 20 right now. And go back to 19.
I'm asking about 20 and 21.
Right. So this door here at the bottom is a sight glass for blind spot, part of changing lanes is you check all your mirrors, which I do. You can see I looked right many times since that's the lane I was going into. It's also a mirror on the left. I checked that. There's also a sight glass window at the bottom of the door, and I checked that.
So
All that's been checked.
Now, to be fair, there are sight glasses, especially in some older trucks. We can see here that there are some stacks on this truck as well. So theoretically, this is an older truck that he's driving. Looks like a Kenworth from the back of the seat. Then again, that could just be a seat. So it is possible for there to be a sight glass. I'll throw up a picture right here, and that's basically what they look like on the doors.
when I was asking you about blind spot mirrors and where they were located, all you had to do was that, what you just did there. So you're saying you're looking at a blind spot mirror
I said I checked my
at 20 and
mirrors.
21.
I said, no, I said I checked my mirrors, and during the time you're asking, what is not on video is a sight glass in the bottom of the door that shows to the outside. I additionally checked that to be the safest driver I can be, to make the safest lane change I can, and there was nothing, no vehicle visible in that as well. So there was no vehicle in any mirror or sight glass in the door.
Were any of these mirrors improperly adjusted?
I believe that's a question on the interrogatory, isn't it?
No. It's a question right here and right now. Were any of the mirrors that we just talked about, were they improperly adjusted as of the date and time of this wreck?
I don't know how to answer that question.
How about a yes or no?
Well, I just said I don't know how to answer that. I know there was no vehicle visible when I checked all my mirrors.
And when you checked them, did you confirm that they were properly adjusted?
From what I could see in the mirrors when I looked, there was no vehicle present.
And I'm asking about the adjustment, the status to which they were adjusted. Were they properly adjusted when you checked them, or improperly adjusted?
I mean, the best bet in this case, if it hadn't been for those interrogatory questions, which I'm not 100% sure what those are, other than, that it's just a questioning between him and his lawyer, a proper adjustment should be done. So yes, the answer should be yes to these questions.
At the adjustment they were, I could not see any vehicle in them.
So you do remember performing a pre-trip inspection?
No, I didn't say that.
So when did you check them?
I said,
Here's where he's getting
factually in
tricked.
the video, you can see me checking my mirrors and my blind spot.
So when did you check them? About every 10 seconds throughout my entire drive for the entire day is when I checked them, and they looked great.
Sight glass of the door before changing lanes to make sure I was operating it as safe as I possibly could in that moment. And there was no vehicle present, visible.
So you
Before
didn't check before this. You didn't check whether they were properly adjusted. What you're talking about checking is actually looking at the mirrors while you're driving. You can't tell me one way or the other whether you had actually confirmed prior to driving whether they were properly adjusted.
I can tell you that.
I mean, it's really difficult to confirm when you're not driving whether they're properly adjusted or not. You kind of need to be driving to see what's going on.
When I checked my mirrors and my blind spot areas, there was no vehicle visible
And
when I changed lanes.
And when you say check, you mean looking at the mirrors as you're driving.
Of course, to safely operate a truck, you look to see if there's anything there, and there was not anything visible to me before I changed lanes. So I checked so I can safely make a lane change.
And I am asking you, before you even sat down in that driver's seat, did you confirm, check, whatever language you want to use, did you look at those mirrors and see if they were in the proper adjustment prior to turning your key on the ignition and driving that vehicle?
You already asked if I did a pre-trip inspection. I said no.
Okay, so now it's no. You now remember, but you did not perform one.
You've asked that question already.
And you were supposed to perform one, right?
I mean, that's a perception question. I
No,
answered
not
facts.
really. That's definitely yeah, you got to perform a pre-trip
The
every
answer's
day.
no, simply.
Under federal regulations and state regulations, you're to perform a pre-trip inspection, are you not?
Form.
I I don't know how to answer that question.
As the driver of a commercial motor vehicle, as the driver, you are ultimately responsible for determining whether the tractor and any trailer attached is in safe condition prior to operating that vehicle on a road. True or false?
Form.
I said I didn't do a pre-trip inspection. Andrews didn't. Did not instruct us to do so.
I mean, yeah, Andrews might have not instructed you to do so, but federal regulation trumps what Andrews has to say anyway. And this is like the worst time to be passing the buck off to the company. You should have been doing that when they were talking about the manuals, the training, that kind of stuff. That's where you throw the buck back to the company, not on stuff that's federal regulation that you know dang well as a truck driver that has to be done every day. And not only every day, you need a pre-trip and a post-trip every day.
One more time from the beginning. The vehicle occupied by my client was in the lane to your right. Is that accurate?
To the right of me.
Yes.
I mean, the only time
If you recall.
the only time I ever seen the vehicle was when it was spinning out.
And is it your contention that she approached from behind your vehicle and was speeding up, and that's why you didn't see her? Or was she, at all points leading up to this collision, was she ahead of your vehicle? Maybe not directly ahead, but at least ahead of your vehicle.
Form.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is going to be plaintiff's deposition exhibit number 3.
Okay, so now we're looking at the outside camera, and they do, as this thing progresses, they will do a side-by-side as best as they can of what's going on while it's going on, you know, from the inside and the outside, I believe. But as we could tell just from the start of this video, this car is very much so ahead of this truck and very easily seen if the driver's paying attention. And the main reason on all of my crash reactions that I have an issue with blind spot being an excuse is because if you're paying attention to your surroundings, you should know, hey, what happened to that car that was up there 2 seconds ago? Where are they at now? And you should be paying attention enough to know, okay, they might be here. Let me take an extra second before I merge lanes to make sure there's nobody there. And as we can see, it's very visible. Even from the perspective of the dash cam, his arguments on this are interesting as well. But in my opinion, as a truck driver, this car is very clearly visible and should be visible from the driver's seat.
Well, before I begin, do you remember what the vehicle occupied by my client looked like? What kind of vehicle it was, what color it was? Do you remember it all?
No.
Do you remember what my client or the other passenger of that vehicle looked like?
No, that was so long ago, I don't remember.
Do you remember what ethnicity they were? Anything about them?
No.
Did you in fact see either of those two people at the scene of the wreck?
After it happened, I ran over there and checked on him immediately. When you seen me exit my truck, when it was safe to cross the highway, I ran over to check on them because I was concerned. At which point I asked if they were okay, and they said they were. I asked if they were hurt. They said no.
Objection form.
So even up until now, you should still be able to see this car. Maybe, just maybe now, depending on the position of the seating of the truck driver. If he's got his seat dumped all the way to the bottom, maybe. Right about now, he might not be able to see it. But leading up to it, he should have been able to.
Based on what we just saw, what did my client do wrong, if anything? Or let me specify. What did the driver of my client's vehicle do wrong, if anything?
I don't know.
Nothing? You need to rewatch that video. Can you tell me anything that they did wrong?
The answer to that is
Yeah,
no.
I don't know their
They were
speed,
just
but other than
driving.
that, I don't think so.
Right.
What, if anything, would you have done differently if you could relive that day?
Speculation.
Well, I don't know how to answer that.
Do you know-
We're here.
I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think like his lawyer's doing a great job at throwing in the objections.
Now. Can't go back in time.
Is there anything that you could have done differently to have prevented this wreck?
Well, like anybody, I wish it didn't happen.
That's
But
fair.
What
And
could you have done differently?
I don't know.
What could you have done differently? And had you done it, avoided this wreck?
Well, so that question implies that
okay, so basically, yeah, he's setting it up to where he's admitting fault effectively. What could you have done differently to prevent this accident? Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that he could do different. He could have started at a later time that day or an earlier time that day. You know, you could give some smart aleck responses to that and still have an answer.
there was full control over every aspect and variable of the situation. And the reality of it was, it's an accident for a reason. It's an accident. Accident is by definition accident. So it's not that I purposely did anything,
By what definition?
nor did they do anything.
What do you mean? Define accident for me.
Well, you're smarter than me. You do it. You know what that is. Why are you asking me?
Why don't you tell me if you agree with this? Negligence causes accidents.
Form.
I don't know how to answer that. That's another implication.
Now, right now, he's got some points. He's throwing the attitude along with it. But I do kind of feel bad for this guy. I mean, stuff does happen, but there are some things that, based off of this, you could do a little different. It's just a bad day. You know, things happen. He could have been better, but being questioned and grilled like this, it's sad. You know, I feel bad for the guy. He's just trying to make a living. But then again, that other car didn't deserve to get all jacked up. And if there were injuries, then they deserve to be paid out for that. So
you're saying you had no control over your vehicle. You had no control over this happening, this collision.
What I do know for a fact is me operating that vehicle, I was operating it in the most safe manner I possibly could, to the extent of my control, as safe as I could.
The safest you could. The absolute
Yes.
safest you could. Safety's important, right?
Absolutely.
You're driving 20 tons, right?
Form.
And if you drive that truck unsafely, even slightly unsafely, you could kill somebody, right?
Form.
Is that a question or a statement?
Yeah, it's a question.
Seems like you're just talking at me.
It's a question.
Form.
Do you disagree?
I don't know how to answer that.
Let's watch this. So we can at least agree that where I'm waving my cursor, that is my client's vehicle, right?
I said I don't know what it looks like, is it? Hey, pause it, please.
Yes. Is it my
When
client?
you ask me a question, you tell me I have to answer. I just asked you a question and you ignored me. Is that your client's vehicle?
Well,
I also said I don't.
really supposed to.
I also said I don't know what it looks like. So why would you ask me a question you already know the answer to? I asked
okay, so the lawyer isn't the one that's going under the
you, is
deposition.
that your client's vehicle? Because I don't know.
Josh, I'm not supposed to be answering questions. I'm not the witness. I'm not supposed to be answering questions. I'm not the witness.
Okay, well I don't know.
Okay. So, based on what we saw, this vehicle being the one that there was contact made with, safe to say that is my client's vehicle, right? I mean, I'm not trying to trick you here.
I mean, I'm listening to you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if that's your client's vehicle, that's your client's vehicle. You would know better than I would. If he's got an argument with it, obviously two vehicles are involved into an accident. You got your vehicle and the vehicle you hit. The answer is pretty clear. Mm.
This does capture the wreck that we're here about today, right? The one in November of 2021.
Yes.
This video shows, or is a fair and accurate depiction of what you remember happening that day?
It's on a factual video, isn't it?
Well, so yes.
Yes. You're watching the same video I watched.
I happen to notice an extended period of time, and this is just the amount of video that was produced in this case by your prior employer. Let's watch how much time transpires between the beginning of this video and the time of impact, okay?
Yeah, like I said, right about now, there's a chance that he might not be able to see it, but all the way up until that, he should have seen it.
Okay. So 24 seconds transpire, maybe second or two last. But for that full beginning of the video, my client's vehicle is ahead of yours that entire period. Do you agree?
Based on perception of a camera that's high mounted at the ceiling, so high that you can't even see the hood of the truck, yes. But where line of sight of any average driver with their two eyes that's operating the vehicle, it certainly is not their perception.
You're saying you could not have seen that vehicle? Only the camera could have seen it?
Didn't I already state I couldn't see any vehicle anywhere around the vehicle before I attempted to safely change lanes? That's a camera high mounted on a ceiling. You tell me, if you're on the ground in Dallas versus you on the top of a skyscraper, which one can you see farther? Understood?
Is that accurate comparison?
It's a perception question. I don't expect you to answer it, just like you didn't answer the other one. But my point is, at a higher point of view, you have further vision. So basing a perception on a high-mounted camera by the headliner of a truck versus eye level is an inaccurate assessment of the situation.
To be fair, this is a great argument. I mean, really it is. Anytime there's dash cam footage where you look out like the bad guy, this is a fantastic argument. The position of the camera does show a completely different story than what your eyes see. And more so to that, a camera doesn't have nearly the detail that your eyes have. Just like if you're taking a picture of the stars at night, you're not going to be able to see it nearly as clearly as what you can with your eyes. So if I were a lawyer on his defense, I would definitely be making those statements. Like, it's a dash cam. It's not reality. So there's some factors to be taken into consideration there.
Interesting.
You can't even see the truck in the video. That tells you how high the camera is mounted. So comparing the perception of a high-mounted camera field of vision versus my two eyes, which I was the only one in that vehicle at that moment in time. You weren't there. No one else was there. My two eyes versus that perception will never be comparable.
How much higher is the camera than your field of vision?
I don't know.
Fair
You
point
don't know.
again. So he's actually starting to answer some where it's right. You don't know how far. You didn't take a measuring tape out there.
What I do know, it was mounted towards the headliner, and I was in the driver's seat. That's what I do know. That's fact. In the interior video, you can see the interior camera pointing at me. You can see how high it is. You can also see the headliner. Based on your perception, I could ask you the same. If you wanted, you could guess as well as I could how high the headliner is above my head. But it would only be based on perception and a guess, which I'm not going to do. So factually speaking, all I can say is it's not a comparison, but an actual measurement I do not know.
Okay, so the dash cam footage is not a comparison of what a driver can or cannot see.
Factually speaking, with that exact what they can see, no. It can depict what happened, sure, from a different point of view, which will not ever be comparable to the eyes of any person operating it.
Based on what we've seen in the video, at least, okay, we can save our arguments on what's captured in this video versus what you could actually see. Let's put a pin in that. Based on the video, what we have seen all the way up to the point of impact, my client's vehicle is ahead of your vehicle that entire time, correct?
I don't know, is it? Physically speaking, I
You
don't
want to
know.
watch it again?
I couldn't see the vehicle.
Look at that beige sedan and tell me if at any point in time prior to impact, your vehicle was ahead of that vehicle, okay?
Yeah, obviously there's never a point until it spins out and goes behind him.
See that? Did
Yeah,
you at any point see that vehicle behind your vehicle?
No, I just watched the same video you watched.
Is your testimony here today that what we see captured in the first frame, timestamp 000, of plaintiff's deposition exhibit number 3, which captures outside of the cab, your testimony here today is this frame that we're looking at right here, that if you were sitting in the driver's seat of that truck, that you would not have been able to see that sedan that we see here?
I said that's a perception. Factually speaking, let's talk facts. We know the accident happened, and that's it.
No,
That's a fact.
factually speaking, I'm asking you if sitting in the driver's side cab of the truck, if you would have seen that vehicle where it is on the first frame of deposition exhibit number 3, would you have seen that vehicle if you were sitting in the driver's seat?
So you said, would I? Implying I didn't, but would I? What if? Would I? That's, again, perception. And would I? Presumably, I suppose, well, we're not talking about presumably, or would I?
Well, we are.
No, because that's what if. That's a would I. What the facts are is, I did not see a vehicle before I attempted to safely change lanes. I did contact the vehicle, and an accident happened, and it is an accident for a reason.
But
And it certainly was not intentional, and I operated the vehicle as safe as I possibly could during that instance.
But you would have seen that vehicle where it's located in the first frame if you were sitting in the cab as the driver. It would have been within your field of vision.
If it wasn't in a blind spot,
And is it your contention that where it is right there in the first frame, that it would have been in a blind spot of your vehicle?
are we talking facts or presumptions?
Facts. Would it have been in your blind spot there where we see it?
That vehicle was in the blind spot.
So right there? That's in your blind spot right there.
Do you drive a truck?
I
Have you
don't
ever
drive a-
operated a semi-truck?
I do not.
Okay, so
I've
you'll-
operated one.
You'll never understand then. But what I can tell you is that vehicle was in a blind spot that I could not see because I've already answered now. I'm going on the 3rd time repeating myself. Clearly, you're not understanding that I could not see any vehicle or any obstruction of any sort in any view, any mirror, or any visual of myself before I safely or attempted to safely change lanes. Because I would not intentionally change lanes if there was something I could visibly see. Therefore, there was nothing I could visibly see, including that beige sedan.
So when we're looking at this, what we're looking at on the screen right here, it's paused for.
Now, if they only had the outside-facing camera, that could be a great argument. And this is why I believe truly that these interior dash cams are not beneficial for truck drivers because he's just going about his day. You know, he closed his eyes for some sun, or he was drifting a little bit. You know, he got tired, wanted to rest his eyes for a couple of seconds, opened it back up, he was fine. Or he reached down to grab a drink and went to, but these are normal operations of a truck driver. You know, expecting a truck driver to sit there with his hands on 10 and 2 and just sit there the entire day and do one of these numbers, that's unrealistic. Like, that's just not what happens. So he was going about his normal day. So a lot of times these interior dash cams end up working against drivers and not for drivers.
Frozen And deposition exhibit number 3, you're saying that where we see the sedan, it is in a blind spot.
Yes.
Going back to a line of questioning earlier, a safe truck driver operating a commercial motor vehicle looks how far ahead when driving?
I don't know how to answer that question, as I said earlier.
But a safe driver does look some distance ahead while operating a CMV, right?
Well, so your question implies what a safe driver is. Is that a definite definition of fact, what a safe driver is? Is that a matter of perception?
I'm saying like to drive one safely, meaning you don't cause wrecks. To drive one safely, you look ahead while driving, right?
Obviously, I look where I'm going like anybody that drives a vehicle.
And you look ahead and not your lane, but also lanes you intend to merge into or change into, right?
As stated earlier,
How far ahead though?
this is the third time I've stated this now. I will repeat myself if you'd like, that I don't know how to answer that question.
You don't know. Okay. I mean, that's an answer. You don't know.
Well, that's part of what I answered it with.
How far ahead did you look on this day?
I don't remember.
Exhibit number 4 is the side-by-side view, both videos that we saw put side by side. So contemporaneously run. Let's go ahead and watch that. Under your definition of accident, an accident can't be done, can't happen if by someone doing something wrong. Is that how you define it?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, you keep on using this word accident. You're saying an accident's an accident. I want to know what your definition of accident is.
Because we can all draw our own conclusions.
Can someone doing something wrong cause an accident?
I don't know how to answer that.
Can someone acting unreasonably cause an accident?
I don't know how to answer that. You're asking for my perception, which is still irrelevant. So is your perception.
No, you can keep saying it's irrelevant. I think that whole courtroom, judge, jury, me, and even your opposing counsel would disagree. I'm just asking you about your testimony here, trying to expand it out.
Well, like I said,
into what you're saying.
The facts are the accident happened. I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to accomplish here. We know the accident happened, so while you're sitting here trying to prove an accident, I don't know what your point is here. The accident happened. What did your client have you come here to tell me to prove an accident happened, or do we all know that it was established that an accident did happen?
Okay.
What is your
beautiful thing
client
about this process, Josh, is that you don't have to know what I'm getting at. You just got to answer the questions. Okay.
I know.
All right. You're playing some pretty loud music in this video, right?
That's another perception. I don't know.
How high is your music cranked up in this? If 100 is the maximum, and we're going by single digit integers, are you cranked up to 50, halfway?
No idea. I don't remember.
Pretty loud though, right? At least in your opinion?
I don't know. You're asking for a perception again. I don't know. That camera's mic is...
The answer to that would be no. In my opinion, no. My music wasn't too loud.
A human ear. I have no idea. To compare a camera to a human ear, that's a perception again. I don't know.
Did Andrews Distributing ever provide rules within their policy for driving their trucks regarding how loud you should listen to music? If you're allowed to listen to music at all, that is.
No.
No, so you could listen to it as loud as you want.
I suppose. Listen to whatever music you want.
Would you agree that playing music, is at least to some degree a distraction? Ugh, sorry about that.
I don't know. I suppose that's a matter of perception. Does music distract you? If so, you probably won't listen to it. But that changes with each person.
I'm just asking about you.
That's a fair point.
Would you agree that, to some degree, listening to music while operating a vehicle is a distraction from the operation of that vehicle?
No, absolutely not.
There you go. A good answer. No, not for me.
In general, is it easier to answer questions, listen to questions, do things when there's music playing in the background, or harder?
Or
I don't have a problem with it. I don't know why that's relevant. I don't have a problem with it.
So you have no problem answering questions while we're playing music.
No,
You have no problem doing anything while you're listening to music loud.
So he's literally playing music in the
All right,
deposition.
why don't you walk back? What happened in that prior accident in 2019?
And he's intentionally talking louder to talk over it.
are you raising your voice? I don't have a problem hearing you, but it seems like you have a problem speaking over the music. Not sure what your point of that is.
You don't know what my point is.
No, I don't.
Do you have any idea why you're even here today?
or don't answer.
You think you're clean as a whistle?
Or
I don't know how to answer that.
Ask the witness.
let's take a break for a second.
Off the record at 1:01. We're back on the record at 1:09.
I'm going to reserve my questions for trial.
All right, so that was a bit of a long one. At the end of the day, do I think that he could have done a better job? Of course, but he was also in the operation of a daily truck driver. You take drinks, you take your hand off the steering wheel, you listen to music, and sometimes you do get a little sleepy where your eyes close. Like, these are normal things. So I feel bad for the guy to a degree. Not a big fan of his attitude at the beginning of this. He really kind of shot himself in the foot just by saying, I don't know, to everything. Luckily, the lawyer stepped in about a third of the way through there and said, hey, you need to answer some questions. But in my opinion, as a truck driver, he should have been able to see ahead of time that that car was in the lane and know that, okay, that kind of disappeared. Again, he could have used fatigue as a bit of an excuse. Some other things, but he didn't, and it's an unfortunate thing. I did as much research on this as I could, and I did find out that they came to a settlement, an undisclosed settlement amount, so it looks like Andrews is going to be paying out to the driver of that sedan. So let me know if you guys like me reacting to these depositions. I found it very interesting to watch, and if you want me to do more like this, let me know down in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, bye.